Okay, so today we're going to be looking at the what is it? The Danish Spring long distance from 2019. So one thing I'd like to comment is basically some of these videos are a sort of a mental or theoretical preparation for jaywalk this year. And if we look around on the map, we see that basically there's a lot of trails, cut lines, kind of sections of forest with lots of logs here, and then relatively wide, large contours. So either big hills, and that's about it. And there's not too much steep climb. So here we can see that it gets very steep here, just before the ocean, I suppose. But if we look over at some of the jaywalk maps, so this I think is the middle map, and it's definitely a little bit more technical. It's nothing too amazing, but it is probably some of the most technical terrain out of from what we've seen in the Danish Spring. And also they don't really map the logs here. So they sort of do. I don't know if that's a log over here, but basically you can see how sort of I'd say different the terrain is. And if we look at the long distance terrain, then it's basically just one giant side hill. And I really bet that the long route choices here are going to be really important. So just I guess if we're looking here, this is good quality. If we're just looking here at the map, you can see how much, like, to get from the bottom to the top of this hill, it's one, two, three, almost four index contours, I'd say. So that's a lot of climb. Um, but it's definitely very different from what the Danish Spring was like. So I guess similarities might be the forest. I'm going to assume that the forest is quite similar. So here, the white, it really means you can run through it. But what would be different is how you take your route choices. So on this one, and definitely the middle that I went over earlier, you really want to go straight because it's flat and it's the fastest route choice. But for a jaywalk, it's not going to be exactly completely straight all the time. You're going to have to curve to either utilize trails or avoid climb or certain things like that. So, yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. So, once again, I am going to um, go over my route choices, and then we'll go see how the boys ran it, basically. So, to number one, it looks very straight. You've got a trail, so run the trail all the way up to this junction, and then go a little bit left so that you don't lose any climb up this reentrant, and then just go right over the reentrant, come right over the top of this little hill, and into the further reentrant on the other side. So that one's pretty simple. This one I would also go completely straight. So come over this spur into this reentrant. You can just stay on the left side of this little hill. It's going to be super obvious. And then contour here, cross this trail, come up the reentrant, and then head right to the opposite side of that hill. Whoa. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay, a long leg. So, okay. First thing, do we have any big impassable features? Not really. There's this yellow and then this sort of green, but there are cut lines through this green, so it's not that bad to get through. Otherwise, what features do we have that are quite linear? Um, so here we can approach through the white forest. That's probably the best approach. So we want to stick close to the line from here. And then basically we've got white forest here also. And we can cross over this section. I don't know how bad the green is, but we can either go straight or we can use these cut lines. So basically, I'd come straight out here along this trail, cut across this white to this trail, going through the hash semi-open, I think that that's going to be a little bit slower, so definitely want to stick to the trail. Run the trail all the way down to this corner, and then come back to the line through the white forest here, and then just watch basically these cut lines and this forest, and you don't really have to read the contours too much. And then from here, what I would do is either cut straight across this or just run one of these cut lines down here to this trail and then come around to this one. And then from here, you can just basically, or you can even just cut it straight here. So we'll see what the other guys do. But basically, then you can just run completely straight, and try and find this kind of corner in the green, and run this cut line down, turn right, and it should be somewhere to your right. Shouldn't be too hard to find. So number 3 to 4, here I would start off just following this green. It should be pretty obvious, and going out to this white, even though it's faster terrain, it's too far off the line. So I just run straight down here, hit this trail, follow this trail here, and then probably follow the water ditch or whatever. And then either come all the way around here or just cut through the green, depending on how bad the green is. Run over, I assume these are 2 trenches, so you just cut the 2 trenches here. And now you're going to be running, you'll see the spur, so you can run right through the spur up the reentrant and keep a good bearing, probably from, there's not a lot of features here, so just, you'll have to keep it on the blank map and just keep it on the line and just try and run the line up. And you're going to head to the top of the hill, and then there's going to be a clearing here. And if you get to the top, you must have missed it. If you're in this clearing, so you're in a clearing and there's nothing in it, then you need to go right to the correct one. So number 5, you can just probably run straight to this junction, run the trail. As soon as you see the reentrant, then just turn right and your control should be there. Okay, number 6. Basically going to be straight. Now you might want to avoid this, so you can go from the right or the left. I would probably go right, because for the ending of this leg, I'd like to run on this trail here. So I'd come in from the right. This is super flat. Come over top of this hill. Try reading these 2 little logs there. Veer off a little bit right. Hit this trail. And then to finish off, we're going to basically take a bearing from this junction or from this depression right here across the first one, and then you should hit the second one. And such a short distance, there shouldn't be a problem hitting it. So number 7, we're going to head off. Okay, there's a giant hill in our way. So I'd probably run around this, because it is 6 contours, which is about 30 meters. 6 times 5 is 30, I think, meters of climb. So 30 is not too bad, but like, it's not worth it. I think it's just better to come all the way here, maybe climb 1 or 2 of them, contour here to this junction, run this trail down, and then hit this whatever it is here, the trail bend or the spur. Okay, to number 8, we're gonna go, I just go straight, completely straight. Maybe head off, maybe like aim off a little bit to the right, but cross here into this cut line, and then run this cut line down to this trail, and then run the trail down to the bend, and then the controls just past it. So that's probably what I would do. Yeah, it's mostly, I'd say, physical here, because it's not, you can't afford to make mistakes, and you have to run it very well. So here I'd come out to this trail, run the trail to the left here, and then come right back up to the line, depending on how slow this is. Otherwise, you could cut this off earlier. And then run this cut line down to this trail, and then from this junction, just take a bearing all the way to basically the logs and then the depression. And you can just read that. It shouldn't be too bad. So here, it's just going to be a bearing. Look for this log, come over the top of this hill, and then there's going to be this triangular water ditch thing. So if you can hit this corner of it, you just follow it into the control. So it's quite simple. Otherwise, if you're too far left, you're going to see these trees, or you're going to see this trail on the right side. So it's not too bad. Okay, we've got another long leg. So here, I would probably run this trail down all the way to here, this junction. And then you could follow this, get into this cut line and come back onto the line. Then from here, I just take a completely straight bearing, hit this rock, hit this tree probably, and you're going to see this giant hill on your left. So you can just run as fast as you can, stay on the right side, and then you want to nick basically the corner of this giant clearing, and then you know you're still on the line. And then you're going to come through this really wide, big depression, and you're going to come up onto this little spur, and I just come over, well, okay, no, that's not true. We should just avoid this climb, probably, because it's not too far off the line. And we can just come kind of around the left side, cross over we'll come right by this green here. And then what I would do is take a bearing, hit this trail, try crossing probably this first ditch, and then hopefully you can see the second ditch from the trail, and then you can hit this one also from the trail. We'll see how other people do that. Okay, so here we've got a giant hill. I don't think it's worth climbing. We've got a right or a left route choice, basically. So what might be worth it, though, what I would probably do, I'll consider doing. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm just thinking. So going right is definitely a good option, but it's very far off the line. So I think you want to cut left, but the question is, do you want to cut left here, or do you want to cut left over here? And I think in this case, it might really be worth it just cutting right here, slightly left of the line, and then coming straight down. So I don't know, maybe going all the way around here, or even just cutting here and then here might be a little bit better. But I think if you're good at climbing hills, that cutting all of this distance off will probably give you a better time. And once you come over here, you can just take a bearing, hit this trail, then kind of in this bend or this junction, you get onto this one, and it'll lead you straight to the control. So that route definitely uses the least amount of distance, but it does have a lot of climb in it. Otherwise, you could come more out here. Or if you want to, probably, I wouldn't come like this because you're going back basically along this trail. So this would be the next option. It'll be interesting to see how other people do it. So here, run the cut line down, straight here, go into the forest with a bearing, look for this depression, come up the spur. Right at the depression of the spur, I'd start contouring and try and hit this trail, and then you follow the trail in. So you really don't need to take the extra 5 or 10 meters of climb right there. I don't think it's worth it. Okay, so number 14 and number 15. So going to number 14, I just take a bearing, go straight. You're going to cross this trail, cross this other trail, and then basically it's going to be on the spur on the other side of this little like hill spur thing. So it's you could probably just hit it with a bearing too. Same with this one, just bearing, know what you're looking for, which is a little kind of spur. It's going to be the hill on the right. Oopsie daisy. Okay. And then here, I'd probably just head a little bit to the left, or you could run it straight to this junction. I think it's about the same. If you hit this trail, or you just take a bearing straight to the junction, then basically you're going to go here, and then from this junction, I just take a bearing, and then you could hit it. Or you could go completely straight on the line. Once again, I don't know how bad the forest is. If it's the same speed, I'd just go straight. Okay, so here there's a lot of, there's a weird network of water ditches. So we've got a linear path here that's parallel. But I think that the forest is fast enough that you can just go straight on a bearing, hit this junction. And then maybe run this trail down a little ways. And then follow this water ditch to its bend. And then you take a bearing here. I don't know if this is a rock or what that is. It's not printed out very well. But basically, I just take a bearing here and probably slow down a bit and try counting the trails or cut lines. So there's 1, 2, 3, and it should be at the end of the third one. And it's not too far here. So you should be able to take your bearing and then hit the control. Okay, so here, there's no close trails, and the forest is really good, so just keep a completely really good bearing here. Maybe read a little bit here, but probably not too much. Then you want to come across this trail, come around the left side, cross this trail, follow this. This is going to be super obvious. And then from here, you're just going to take a bearing across this completely featureless section of forest because there's nothing there. Okay, here you're going to go straight. There's going to be like 3 logs here and then a little spur. So you can go here, and then I just hit these 2 logs and then head up into the control at the edge of this little stream. So, looks pretty chill. Okay, so 19 to 20. It's going to be, I'd pick one of these cut lines. I don't think it matters too much. It might be better to come to one of the ones more on the right. But otherwise, it doesn't really matter because you're going to come out here. And wherever you are here, if there's a giant reentrant, you're probably here. Or you're on this side, depending on which side you were heading more towards. Otherwise, you could just hit this giant spur and then come straight up. But to save as much speed as possible, you probably can run here and then turn right and then go straight up. And that's probably what I would try doing because here the forest is going to be the fastest. And I don't know how bad this is. If it's not bad, you can just go straight. But here you kind of avoid that and you don't have much of a speed loss. It's a little bit extra distance because you have to do a right angle turn. Okay, here there's a very parallel trail, but once again, you're just going to run straight on a bearing. You need to hit this trail junction. If you don't, you can correct very easily. And then from here, I would basically run to this cut line and then follow it right down into the control. Otherwise, if this isn't too bad, you can just run straight down into this kind of, oh, it's up. I think this is up, yeah. So you're just going to run up onto this kind of flat hilltop. It's not going to be hard to find. Oops. Okie dokie. So number 22, I see this trail here, which I would like to take. So I would head off a little bit to the right, down the hill here. So I need a really good bearing so that I can hit this trail. It's going to be pretty hard to hit because it doesn't connect to this one. And so you have to be really careful. So what I would basically look for are these 2 logs. And then from there, I know I'm going to hit the trail. And then you just follow the trail into here. And then from the green, you continue into the pit. And then last, control. I would just probably go straight along this cut line, run through this cup depression, follow the cut line to the end, and then kind of climb up onto this hill and follow this cut line all the way to the end here, to this hill, and it should be just at the end. And then you just, we got a spectator loop. Thought we were done, haha. So follow the spectator loop, just take a bearing and pray to goodness you don't mess it up. So just be really careful with your bearing to number 24. And then here, once again, take a completely straight bearing, try and hit this knoll, and then otherwise it doesn't matter. You're gonna either land somewhere on this trail or here. So if you climb, you know you're more on the right. But basically, you need to hit this junction. So you need to hit that junction, and then basically I'd follow the trail up here and then come up this re-entrant right into the clearing. So it's pretty simple. Then 26, you just run across the clearing. And then 27, come straight. This is actually fairly detailed. So I'm just thinking about the fastest way to do it. So you could just read this, basically this long hill here. If you're not on top of the hill, you're over here, so that's bad, but you shouldn't do that. You should be on top of the hill, and then I'd probably just run straight, and then here, if you're too far left, you're going to see this kind of crater earth bank. If you're too far right, you might see this trail or nothing. And then you just continue on. If you hit this green patch of trees, you know you're too far to the right, and you can correct by going left. Otherwise, you should just go straight. As soon as you cross into this depression or earth bank, then you just run to the center and find the pit. That should be pretty easy. Number 28, you can run straight, but I deviate a little bit. I wouldn't go probably like at a 90-degree angle, but I'd go at like a, I don't know, some angle like this to this trail and then run it all the way down to the end and then finish off. So yeah, let's see how or what is the correct way to do everything. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of people here, and I'm probably just not going to weed people out. So here everybody's going pretty straight. Not much to say, honestly. The names are really kind of hiding everything else. Yeah, we'll keep it at 10. It's very straight. So here, okay, there's a little bit more. So it looks like this is pretty fast. Andreas just went, who's kind of in the lead here. He went just straight. Most people took the trail here, like I said. And then most people go straight here. But Andreas actually hit this corner. And so he's really just running on a bearing. Malte is a bit to the left here. And otherwise, everyone's just kind of going on their bearing. Very straight. So I think what would really pay off here, honestly, is like the straighter your bearing can be. So here we can see Andreas in the lead. And everyone else kind of following in straight. So here, oh, I forgot what I said for this one. Yeah, but basically go straight. And then, so some people take this. Most people are just on the line. It looks like just taking really good bearings pays off very well here. Yeah, the people sticking to the line, you can see how they're kind of getting up into the front. So here we can see Andreas going to the right side of this green, but then following straight right onto this trail. And then I don't know if he didn't hit, yeah, it looks like he didn't hit the trail until later on. But basically everybody is kind of taking this route. Mods came a bit from the left, but I think that's not optimal. It's okay, but it's not bad. Mostly here, it comes down to your running speed, I think. Okay, so everybody went over this hill. So only some people, I'm actually going to mass start it here. Because I want to see what the fastest routes were. So most people go over. Yeah, okay, so basically just go over top of hills. Because it's not worth it going around. Gotta go practice hill running. Yeah, and then here it's fairly straight. So here some people go left, and most people go straight. fairly straight. Oh man, all I feel like I'm saying is just everything's straight. um, it's not too much interesting stuff to discuss here because it's so flat and the force is so good that you can just take the shortest distance to everything, which is a straight line. Um, but yeah, so everyone's kind of, so some people are veering off a bit more to the right here. I would definitely try staying on the line, kind of like Andreas or Jonas was. Oops, I messed that up. Um, yeah, so Andreas is kind of pulling ahead on that leg. Um, and then you can take the climb here. You don't really have to avoid it. So Jonas has avoided it, and he kind of, you could see he lost a little bit of time there. I think I have too many people here. Oh, man. Okay, otherwise, yeah, okay, so I'm just going to pause it. So here on this one, I was wondering if they're going to go over the top or around. And it seems like really going straight over the top is the best option. So there's no point, I think, on adding on extra distance in Danish terrain um, at the cost of extra climb. So basically, I would just get really good at climbing up hills. And then even if we look here at the long distance map, there's a lot of climb here. But if this forest is the same, just like this leg, this hill is, I'd say, fairly similar in steepness to all of these. So basically, it's just better to power up it. So for example, if we have a control, I'd say from this rock to maybe, I don't know, well, let's see, yeah, contouring up, like maybe up to, yeah, the top of this erosion gully. The best route choice is going to be literally to run up here, take 1, 2, 3 meters of climb, then drop down 1, 2, and then come into here. I guess that's a bad example, but basically, like if we have this cliff here to maybe this log, it's not going to be worth running all the way around here to try and save on climb. It's going to be better to run straight up the hill, take up all the climb, and then just run straight down it. I assume so. We'll look at more examples, but just from what I see here, there's no point in avoiding any of this climb because the hilltops are relatively flat and it seems fast. Yeah, and then everybody kind of goes straight here. It's very compassy orienteering. Not a lot of route choice, I'd say. So here Soren and Andreas, they deviate a little bit, but Mads right on the line. I think, like if we look here, yeah, honestly, it's about the same. I don't know. Here, they could hit the trail, so that was probably the reason for the deviation. So it wasn't bad. So here, okay, interesting. So most people actually run the trail up here, and then some people. I'm actually gonna restart it here. So most people run the trail all the way here, and then they come into the control. So that's not too bad, but I think the faster times are, so here, Andreas and Mads, they turn off where basically I would have turned off, but I'd say like Christian and some other people coming around from the left side made it there at the same time. So it's give or take, not really, I'd say, much of a difference there. Here, everybody's just running straight. A little bit of deviation. Some people are sticking more to the paths, but most of the lines are straight here. And then here we can see, so Christian has a good bearing, Soren has a good bearing. Andreas is making a big mistake right now, I think. It's safe to say. Lasse is kind of off. Malte is a little bit off. So it's really important to keep that bearing for a leg like that. And yeah, and then everybody kind of goes straight here. And then to number 20, so it's better. So I was discussing if you should come out to the right here, but the green's not that bad, so you can just come straight completely on a bearing. Yeah, it's not that bad. Really, it's going to be running speed, and I'd say uphill running speed. That kind of decides everything. So some people are going a little bit to the right here, and I think Lasse and Jonas, these people, they have a better line. They're going right on the line, and that's worth it. And they cross right here, and then they just continue straight into the control. So I think that's really the optimal way of doing that leg. Here it's a little bit of a mess, but basically there's that trail, so I think most people aim for the trail. Here it's very straight. Everybody runs through the spectator loop. And then into the control, and there's not too much to add here at the end. That was a very, very nice line. That was beautiful. But yeah, you can see Soren here at the end deviating, just kind of like I said, one should right at the end. Because you don't want to go the whole way, but you don't want to turn off too early. So most people do that. So Andreas, here we can actually see how it kind of turns out. Andreas is going the whole way. But Magnus, it's about the same. Yeah, it's honestly, I think the most important thing is to, in terrain like this where it's relatively easy, you can't afford to make a mistake. If you make a mistake, you're going to lose so much time. And if you're running at about the same speed, then that's what's going to decide decide the placement and who does better and who does worse. So yeah, so I think some similarities to the jaywalk terrains are, I think that it's going to be a lot of going straight and not too much contour avoiding because the hills aren't big enough. For example, there's I'd say classic cases if you have, so I assume they need to put tick lines on these. I don't know what's up and what's down. Well, anyways, if this is a re-entrant here and you have a control here and here, then it may or may not be worth it going up on top or going straight and taking the climb. So I think that's going to be really the most important thing to figure out here. And honestly, the best way I think to figure it out would be to do some test runs for certain legs and then test out what's faster. And then once you know what's faster, in most cases, then you can either decide to take one or the other or just stick with one. So for example, if going straight is definitely faster most of the time, like 80% of the time, then you just go straight for most of the controls at jaywalk, especially in this middle. So unless it's a long leg, then you'll really have to read out and find the most optimal way where you kind of avoid some climb, avoid some of this green, and then you hit your trails but stay as close to the line as possible. So it'll be interesting.